You ever get stuck in a loop so tight, it starts to feel artificial? Like your life is just running through lines of code and you're the cursor blinking at the end? That was me. Not in a dramatic way, just quietly mechanical. I worked the late shift at this benefit support center on Mercer. Nothing glamorous. The kind of job where you repeat the same 5 polite phrases on a headset for hours until your own voice doesn't sound real anymore. Every evening I'd shut the monitor down, push my chair in, and fall into formation with the rest of the night crowd flooding out onto the sidewalk like clockwork. The RTQ ride from downtown to Elmhurst was the only sliver of peace I allowed myself. Just the soft rattle of the carriage, the faint reflection in the window, the feel of my spine finally relaxing into the seat. I never missed a stop. I never took a different route. My walk from the 34th station to my building was second nature. I could probably do it with my eyes closed, and some nights I nearly did. Top floor, narrow stairwell, landlord obsessed with repainting the walls every 2 weeks. The smell of primer became a weird kind of comfort. Even the creak in the second step outside my door had its rhythm. My apartment wasn't anything special, just a 1-bedroom with thinning carpet and a window that rattled when the wind hit it right. But it was mine, and I guess in a way I clung to that sameness because it made things feel solid. Predictable. Funny how we only notice how fragile that sense of order is once something shifts. Not big, just slightly, just enough to throw the whole system off without warning. It's funny how the smallest things end up shifting the ground under you. That night wasn't supposed to be different. I was already halfway to the station when I remembered I was out of cereal and toothpaste. Nothing urgent, just enough of an excuse to cut left and hit the store on 38th. One of those places with flickering fluorescent lights that somehow make winter feel even colder. I didn't plan to be there long, just in and out. I was scanning the shelves, half asleep and a little on autopilot when I saw her. Harper. We hadn't talked since high school back in Staten Island. One of those people you always imagined was doing something vaguely impressive with their life. She hadn't changed much, not in the ways that mattered. Still had that kind of upright, unshakable posture, like she belonged wherever she was standing. Just seeing her in that aisle knocked something loose in me. It was jarring, but not in a bad way. More like someone hit pause on everything else. We didn't plan it, but we ended up at that all-night chrome diner across from the parking lot. The one with the neon sign that hums a little too loud and booths that stick if you shift wrong. The world outside didn't matter for a while. We just sat there talking about nothing. Old jobs, new plans, her classes starting at some community college nearby. Time stretched in a weird way, like the night wanted us to stay in that limbo. It felt good, unplanned, off routine, but good. I told myself it was harmless, just one deviation from the usual path. But looking back, I can't help but wonder if that's where the thread really started to unravel. Not loud, just quietly. I should have just called a car. That thought's been circling my head ever since. Like if I had just tapped the app and waited those extra 3 minutes, everything after would have folded back into routine. But I didn't. I felt fine, awake, clear-headed. The air had that sharp, dry bite that comes after the snow melts, but before spring remembers to show up. The streets were quiet in that way that tricks you into thinking you're alone. Not peaceful exactly, just unbothered. It wasn't until I crossed the second block that I started hearing it. The steps, not a rhythm, just short bursts. Uneven, like someone stopping when I stopped. I didn't want to look over my shoulder, didn't want to confirm it. The thought alone was bad enough, so I kept walking, faster. Took a weird left, then cut through a side street with those low, narrow brick houses, the kind where every porch light is motion activated. I thought maybe I was imagining it. Paranoia from too much diner coffee, and not enough sleep. But every time I tried to trick myself, the sound came back. Not louder, just closer. Like whoever it was knew I was trying to lose them, and didn't mind playing along. And everything suddenly felt louder, my breathing, the squeak of my shoes, the way my coat rustled when I moved. Even the porch lights startled me, flicking on like spotlights while I tried to disappear. I didn't run. I don't know why. Maybe I thought that would confirm it, that it was real, that I was prey. I just kept moving and hoping the steps would fall away behind me. They didn't, and that's the part that won't let go. realizing it wasn't all in my head. Not this time. I still can't decide if that car was meant for me or if it was just bad timing. It was there, sitting quietly at the corner of Brickner. No hazards on, no movement, just humming like it had been waiting. I was too rattled to think twice. Waved it down, slid into the back like I'd done 100 times before. The driver gave me a quick nod when I told him to cross streets. Nothing out of the ordinary. Nothing at all. For the first couple of blocks, everything felt routine. The hum of the heater, the soft buzz of some talk radio station I couldn't quite catch. I remember watching streetlights smear across the windows and thinking I was finally getting away from whatever that was behind me. Then we made a turn. Not a sharp one, not dramatic, just enough to make my stomach shift. He said it was a detour, some construction up ahead. But there were no blinking lights, no reflective barriers, no signs, just more of those wide, silent roads. I stared out the window like it would calm me down, like the shapes of buildings I didn't recognize weren't screaming something was off. And still, I didn't say anything. I could have asked him to stop, could have pretended I had the wrong destination, but I didn't want to seem crazy. That's the thing. I didn't want to break the illusion that everything was still normal, that I was still in control of the night. I needed to believe that a ride was just a ride and people didn't wait in shadows for strangers like me. I needed that lie more than I needed safety, and that's the part that's hardest to sit with. I gave it permission, all of it. It happened too fast for my brain to catch up. 1 second we were crawling along this dim stretch of road, no streetlights, just that orange haze from a distant billboard. And then the car eased to a stop near this curb swallowed in shadow. I didn't even ask why. I just sat there, stupid quiet, and then the door opened. It was him. I knew it, couldn't prove it, but I knew. Same frame, same heavy gait. The one I'd been hearing behind me back on Linden. He slid into the front passenger seat like this had all been scheduled, like his role had finally come up in the script. He reached into his coat and pulled out a gun. Not some big flashy thing, small, older, scratched like it had been dropped, or used, or maybe both. I remember that detail way too clearly. The way the metal caught the dash light. It reminded me of a prop you'd see in some budget crime show, except this one was real, and way too close. He didn't yell, didn't need to. His voice was soft, bored even, like he was reading off a menu. That scared me more than anything. The calm, the practiced rhythm. I didn't argue, just dug into my pockets, dropped my phone, my wallet, the necklace my sister gave me. One of the only things I wore every day. I don't even remember hearing the driver. He never turned around, never flinched, just kept the car rolling smooth and slow, like nothing had changed. It felt rehearsed. That's the part I can't shake. Like this wasn't some random mugging, like I had been selected, or maybe watched. I keep going over it, trying to spot where I became the mark, and I still don't know. I didn't notice the cruiser until it was already behind us. No sirens, just this sudden wash of red and blue light bleeding through the back window, soaking the seats, flashing against the gunmetal. My body moved before anything else did. The moment the driver hit the gas, I lunged for the door like it was the only real thing left. I didn't know if it would open. I wasn't thinking through it, just reacting. The latch gave way and cold air hit me like a wall. I hit the ground hard, the kind of pain that takes a second to register. My knee slammed into asphalt, something scraped open, but I didn't stop. I rolled, got up, and ran toward the lights like they were a finish line. I couldn't even hear myself. Just this roaring inside my head. I remember waving my arms like a maniac, hoping whoever was behind that cruiser glass could see I wasn't part of whatever this was, that I was trying to get out, not in. Then someone grabbed me, firm, steady. I didn't resist, couldn't. I was inside the back of their car before I even processed what was happening. My heart wouldn't settle. My voice kept catching on itself when I tried to explain. Everything came out backwards and fast, like I was trying to outrun the memory even as I spoke it. I still can't get over the part that saved me. Not instinct, not some clever plan, just a traffic stop, a speeding violation. That driver took a corner too hard and got clocked in a 25 zone. That's it. That's what pulled the thread. A mistake in their script. One wrong turn. And if they hadn't made it, I don't like letting my brain go there. But it does. Constantly. It was 2 days later. I thought I'd already made it through the worst part. Gave the statement, replaced the phone, even got my necklace back in an evidence bag that smelled like latex and paperwork. I wasn't fine, but I was going through the motions, figured that counted for something. Then I got home and saw the door. It wasn't wide open, not even swinging, just cracked. Barely. But enough. Enough to know I hadn't left it like that. I stood there for a second, keys still in hand, trying to convince myself maybe I hadn't pulled hard enough. Maybe the latch didn't catch. Maybe. Inside it was quiet. Too quiet. Not still, the wrong kind of quiet. Like a room holding its breath. I walked in slowly. Every step felt like it echoed too much. A drawer in the kitchen was open halfway. I hadn't used it in days. The light in the hallway was on, the one I never turn on. It just sits there collecting dust. Unless I bumped the switch by accident. Nothing was missing. At least nothing I could see. No shattered windows, no torn apart closets. It wasn't messy. Just off. Tilted slightly to one side. Like someone had touched everything just enough to make it unfamiliar. I didn't call anyone. Didn't file a report. I just stood in my own living room, staring at the wall, wondering if I'd imagined all of it. Wondering if maybe I was too paranoid now. If that's just who I was going to be. But the worst part, the part that really settles in deep, is that I can't prove it either way. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe someone came back. Maybe they never left. And I'll never know. That's the part that keeps echoing. That's what I can't shake. I kept thinking July would fix everything. Like the sun would come out, and so would my luck. I don't know, maybe it was just something to cling to. One of those things you repeat in your head when things start sliding and you need something. I'd been applying for jobs since April, maybe even before that. Cafes, call centers, retail, anything. I rewrote my CV so many times I stopped recognizing myself on it. Still, nothing. Just silence. We've decided to move forward with other candidates. Email chipped away at whatever pride I had left. Then even those stopped coming. It's like I didn't exist anymore. Meanwhile, my savings were dissolving into real life. 20 quid gone here, another 30 gone there. Groceries, electricity, my parents' meds. My dad needs heart pills twice a day. My mum gets dizzy if she skips hers. I watched their pill bottles get emptier while pretending I wasn't counting down the days till I couldn't refill them. Every time I sat down to dinner with them, I found myself staring at the food, trying to calculate how much each plate cost. They didn't know. I made sure they didn't. They thought I had some remote job, data entry or whatever I made up. I couldn't bring myself to tell them nothing was working out. I wasn't even sleeping properly anymore. Just lying there in the muggy heat, listening to the fan creak in the corner, my body soaked in sweat, my mind racing. I kept thinking how many days left before everything collapses. How long can I fake this? I really thought July would change things. But July just sat there, hot and heavy, watching me fall apart in slow motion. Jules didn't even flinch. Just tossed me her spare keys like she was lending me a hoodie or something. "Use it," she said, like it was no big deal. Her old Astra blue scratched along both sides, smelled faintly of takeaway chips and some kind of floral air freshener that had long since given up. But it ran. That was the only thing that mattered. She said I should try driving Uber, just until something better comes along. Like better was right around the corner, waiting politely for me to notice it. I laughed, but inside I was just tired. I didn't want to do it. Not really. The thought of driving strangers around the city at night, on side streets, in my own bubble with people I didn't know, it made my stomach twist. I've never been the kind of person who's good with unpredictability, but I wasn't in any place to be picky. Not anymore. Pride's expensive, and I couldn't afford it. So I signed up that night. The process was weirdly fast, like scarily fast. I sent in my ID, a blurry license photo, filled out a few forms, and that was it. 3 days later I was in. No one called. No one asked me anything. Just a ping on my phone. "You're ready to drive." It was faster than getting through to the job center, faster than getting a GP appointment, faster than most things, really. That should have told me something, but I didn't have the energy to read between the lines. I cleaned Jules's car with pound shop wipes, vacuumed the crumbs out of the footwells, filled the tank with the last 20 I had. Didn't tell my parents, didn't tell anyone, just opened the app and waited. I remember the first few rides, but not clearly, more like echoes, background noise playing behind whatever I was really feeling. Not because they weren't eventful, but because I couldn't connect to any of it. I was there, in the car, hands on the wheel, eyes on the road, but it was like watching a movie I wasn't part of. People got in and out, said their hellos and thank yous, talked about stuff, normal stuff, dinner reservations in Soho, breakups with people named Josh or Zara, football scores, travel plans, whatever was trending that week. Their words just floated around me, light and pointless, like radio static I couldn't quite turn off. There was this guy in a tie I picked up outside an office in Stratford. He was eating a protein bar, scrolling through emails. Didn't even look up. Dropped him near the river. Then a bartender heading home after a shift in Finsbury Park. His apron still smelled like stale beer and fryer oil. He looked dead on his feet, said he had to be back by 10 a.m. And then there were the girls. Two of them swaying and shrieking babe every other sentence, perfume clouding up the whole car. They kept laughing at something on one of their phones. They were loud, alive, not even thinking about money or rent or anything bigger than the next song on the aux. Meanwhile, I just kept driving, just kept breathing. The little ping from the app felt like the only solid thing in my day. Every time it lit up, it was like being thrown a rope. Another few quid, another trip closer to making rent. I kept telling myself if I could just keep the engine running, I'd figure the rest out later. I don't know what made me accept that ride. Maybe I was just tired. Maybe I needed the fare. Maybe I stopped listening to my gut around that point. It was just after 2 a.m., and the city had gone into that strange in-between state, too late for the pubs, too early for the morning people. Just me, the road, and that soft electronic hum from the Uber app. The request came through with no photo, no name I recognized. Just pick up near Queen's Crescent Market. I figured maybe it was someone drunk, or lost, or both. I pulled up near the shuttered stalls, headlights catching the edges of corrugated metal and faded signs. At first, no one. I waited a few minutes, thumb hovering over cancel. Then someone emerged, slow, steady, from between the stalls. Hoodie pulled tight over his head. Hands in pockets. No eye contact. He got in the back seat without a word, just sank into the upholstery like he'd done it 100 times before. I glanced at the destination. Nothing special. A residential block in Kentish Town. But then he said, real quiet, that he didn't like the cameras on the main road. Could I take the side streets instead? That hit me wrong. Not panicked wrong. Just unsettled. Off. I told myself maybe he was paranoid about surveillance. Maybe he was high. Maybe he just didn't like being watched. But every turn I took down those back roads made the silence in the car feel thicker, like the streetlights were too far apart, like the city had gone hollow all of a sudden. No traffic, no people, just my own tires on the tarmac and the occasional flicker of a cat darting between bins. That was the first moment I felt something shift. Something I couldn't name. That moment lives in my body now, not just in my head but in my actual skin. It's like muscle memory. I was already on edge, but when he leaned forward and said it, just calmly told me to cancel the ride, I froze. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't threaten anything. He just said it, and I did it, just like that. No hesitation, no argument. My hands moved without asking me first. I tapped the screen and watched the map vanish. No more tracking, no more accountability, just silence and the sound of my own breathing. Shallow and fast. Then I felt it, on my shoulder. A slow, deliberate kind of pressure. Cold, not sharp, but unmistakably metal. I didn't turn, didn't need to. My brain connected the dots for me. Knife, small, close. I didn't scream. That's the part that still messes with me. I thought I'd panic if something like that ever happened. But I didn't. I just went quiet, like my own fear had locked me out of my body. He told me to open my banking app. My fingers shook so hard I typed the wrong PIN first. Thought that'd be it, that he'd lose it, but he didn't. I tried again and it opened. I remember the screen exactly, £2.43. No savings, no pending payments, just those numbers staring back at me like they were mocking me. He looked at it for a long time, didn't say anything. No sigh, no insult, no disappointment, just this strange pause. Then he reached into his hoodie and pulled out a folded green note. Canadian. Left it on the seat beside me and got out without slamming the door. I still don't know why. I should have said no. I should have canceled the ride the second I saw the pickup location. Dockside Tower. The name sounded polished, corporate, like a place that probably had smoothie bars and security gates. But when I pulled up, it looked wrong. The kind of wrong that doesn't hit you right away. Just something about the windows. Too many dark ones. No movement. No lights in the lobby. New but unfinished. Or maybe abandoned before it even began. He came out from the side entrance. Hoodie, duffel bag, that usual look people wear when they're trying not to be remembered. Got in the back, said he needed to stop by his unit in the underground level. Just 2 minutes. I didn't argue, just nodded like always. The ramp down scraped the underside of the car. It got colder the lower we went, but not regular cold. The kind of cold that felt still, like the air hadn't moved in hours. Maybe days. He stepped out near level B, said he'd be quick, left the bag behind, which made me nervous. But I stayed, watched the clock. 5 minutes. 10. At 20 I reached for my phone. No signal. Nothing. The garage lights buzzed, flickered once. Then again, I couldn't tell if I actually heard footsteps or if it was just the acoustics messing with me. Every sound echoed in a way that made it feel like I wasn't alone, but no matter where I looked, the place was empty. I finally reversed out, climbed back into daylight like I'd been holding my breath, looked up at the tower again. It wasn't until I got home that I searched it. The building's been vacant for years. No businesses, no tenants, nothing registered to that address. So who the hell was he, and what was I waiting for down there? I gave the car back like nothing happened, just dropped the keys on her counter, mumbled something about needing a break, and left before she could ask anything. She didn't push. Maybe she knew better, or maybe she didn't care to know. Either way, I was grateful. I paid the rent in full that week. In cash. My parents didn't ask where it came from. They just smiled and told me I looked tired. I bought their meds, stocked the fridge, even picked up a few things we didn't need just to feel like we had breathing room. It didn't last, of course. But for a few days, it felt like the world had stopped spinning so violently. I still drive, but I've made rules for myself. No more late-night pickups. No more rides from unmarked streets or buildings with missing windows. I stay on main roads now. I keep the car lit up. I keep it moving. No side streets. No shortcuts. I cancel anything that doesn't sit right in my chest. Still, there are nights when the city slows down just enough, just before dawn, when even the drunks have gone quiet and I feel it all creeping back in. The stillness, the weight of the air in the car, the sound of my own breath too loud in my ears. That green Canadian bill is still folded up in the back of my drawer. I've never spent it. I don't know why. It feels like touching it would wake something up I'm not ready to deal with. Sometimes I wonder why he didn't hurt me, why he gave me money, why he looked at my bank balance and just stopped. What did he see? Was it pity? Something else? I don't know. I just keep driving. You ever get that feeling, like something's off, but you go through with it anyway because life's been dragging and you need the win? Yeah, that was me last September. Things had been dead for weeks. I've been driving around Bayline City for years. Uber, Lyft, the usual night shift stuff. Airport runs just before dawn. Drunk couples fighting in the back seat after bar close. Nothing glamorous, just enough to keep the bills from yelling too loud. But that month? Dead. I was barely making it past break even. So when my phone rang around 9 p.m. with a number I didn't recognize, I almost didn't answer. I mean, I stick to the apps mostly. Safety, paper trail, fewer weirdos. But I picked up. Maybe I was hoping it was a regular or someone who'd tip in cash. On the other end, this guy says he's a friend of Tariq. Now, Tariq's one of my longtime off-the-books regulars. Always cash, always polite, never trouble. So I listen. This guy sounds calm, chill, says he needs a ride, cash only, no app. Says Tariq gave him my number. That part made me pause. I hadn't heard from Tariq in weeks, and he never mentioned passing my info around. But I didn't ask questions. Rent was due in 4 days, and I just burned half a tank on 2 back-to-back cancellations. So I said yes. I know, stupid. My gut didn't like it, but I told myself it was just another oddball ride. One more weird Bayline moment. I figured I'd pick him up, get paid, and forget about it the next day. Thing is, I haven't forgotten, and I don't think I ever will. He gave me the address over the phone, something on Layton Avenue, right around Alcott Heights. I'd driven past that stretch plenty of times. Old apartment buildings, tight street parking, the usual mix of rundown and barely maintained. Nothing fancy, nothing I'd think twice about. That was probably the first red flag. I didn't think twice. When I pulled up, the place looked the same as I remembered. Faded brick, paint peeling on the fire escapes, a busted intercom panel next to the entrance. I sent him a quick text, the usual, "I'm here." He responded almost instantly. "Can you come around back? Need to load something heavy." Back entrance. I remember just staring at that message for a second, not because it was suspicious on paper, but because it gave me that weird cold breath feeling in my gut. You know the kind, like your body knows something before your brain does. I turned the corner, pulled into this narrow alley that hugged the back of the complex, tight enough that if another car came through, one of us would have to reverse the whole way out. The loading dock was maybe 20 feet from the back door, just one old light hanging above it, flickering like it couldn't make up its mind. On off, buzz on again. That hum was the only sound in the alley, not even crickets. I left the engine running, told myself maybe he had a dresser or some awkward Craigslist find. People move weird stuff all the time. It didn't mean anything, but deep down, I knew I should have just backed out then and there. I didn't. I waited, and I've been replaying that choice ever since. He came out of the back door like he'd been standing right behind it the whole time, hoodie up, cap pulled low, hands in his jacket pockets, nothing that screamed danger. Honestly, half the people I pick up at night look just like that. At first glance, he just seemed like another tired guy moving house or running a last-minute errand. Nothing out of the ordinary. He walked straight up to my window. No hesitation. I cracked it open, expecting the usual, "Hey man, gimme a sec," or "It's that one right there." But instead, he leaned in just enough and said he needed help bringing something up from the basement. A bag. Heavy. And I remember this so clearly, my stomach tensed right then. It was just a small thing, like a twitch in the back of my head, but it was there. I've helped passengers load heavy stuff before. TVs in weird shapes, IKEA wardrobes still in boxes, once even an old arcade machine. So part of me brushed it off. I figured, okay, maybe he's got a gym bag full of weights or something dumb like that. Why else would he need help? But it was the basement part that got to me. I remember standing there thinking, why a basement? Why not bring the bag up himself and just ask me to pop the trunk? Still, I didn't ask any of that out loud. I didn't want to sound rude. Or maybe I didn't want to seem scared. Or maybe I just didn't want to walk away from a cash fare when things had been so bad all month. So I turned off the engine, got out, and followed him through that door. Even now I don't know what the hell I was thinking. Walking through that door was like stepping into someone else's forgotten life. The air hit me first, wet, stale, and sharp like mold had been growing unchecked for years. The hallway was narrow, lined with cracked tiles, and the overhead lights, faint, flickering, like even they didn't want to stay on too long. We didn't talk much, He stayed a step ahead of me, walking with purpose, like he knew every creak in the floorboards. We turned a corner and he led me to this steep, narrow staircase. No railing, just chipped concrete steps going down into more darkness. I followed, and with each step the silence got heavier. I kept thinking, basements aren't this quiet. Where's the boiler hum? Where's the dripping pipe cliché? At the bottom he opened a door into what looked like a maintenance dump. Just junk everywhere. Broken shelving units, stacked chairs, dust-covered filing cabinets. Exposed pipes crossed the ceiling like veins. It looked like a room no one had used in years. But there, in the middle of all that, was the bag. Black, massive, and wrong. I mean, it was shaped like a duffel, but it slumped weird. Like whatever was inside had corners where there shouldn't be corners. One end of it rested unevenly against the table leg, and that's where I saw it. The stain, deep, rusty red. Not fresh, but not old enough to ignore. My chest locked up, just stopped moving. I stood there staring at it, trying to find any excuse for what I was seeing. Tools, paint, meat, something, anything besides what it looked like. I finally asked, but my voice barely came out. He didn't even look at me, just mumbled something like it's nothing. That was the exact second I knew I had to get the hell out of there. Everything after seeing that stain is kind of a blur. Not dramatic or action movie kind of blur. Just that kind where your brain disconnects from your body and all you're left with is this loud, urgent hum in your ears. I remember stepping back, slowly at first, like I was trying not to spook anything. I said something to him, or tried to, something like, "Sorry, I can't help," or maybe "I've got another ride waiting." I don't even know if the words came out right. I just needed to break the tension, cut through whatever was wrapping itself around my chest. That's when he said it, offered me more money. Just like that, voice flat, like it was a routine solution, as if doubling the fare would make me forget what I saw leaking out of that bag. He didn't get angry, didn't move toward me, just stood there, calm, waiting. And I realized in that moment he was never planning on carrying it alone. He needed someone else. Someone who wouldn't ask questions. Someone like me. My hands were freezing, legs like jelly, but I moved. I forced myself to, turned around without another word and walked out. Each step up those stairs felt like it might be the last one before something grabbed me. I didn't dare look back. I told myself if I just kept walking, I could still call this a close call, still fix it. I got to the car and fumbled with the door handle like my fingers weren't working right. Got in, locked the doors, started the engine. I didn't even check the mirrors. I just drove, and he was still there, standing in that doorway, not moving, like he knew I'd seen too much, but didn't care. I didn't stop driving until I hit one of the main roads. I didn't even check where I was going, just knew I needed to get somewhere with lights, with people, with noise. Ended up pulling into a Quick Mart lot about 8 blocks from that alley. Bright overheads buzzing above the asphalt, rows of snack ads taped on the windows. A couple teenagers messing with a vending machine. It was like stepping back into a normal night, except I couldn't feel it. I just sat there. Engine running, hands still wrapped around the steering wheel. Shaking, but not from cold. It's that kind of adrenaline come down that makes your fingers twitch and your stomach turn in slow waves. I kept replaying it all, the basement, the bag, him just watching me leave. And then I remembered the camera, just a little dome one, mounted right above the loading dock door. I'd noticed it when I first pulled in, didn't think anything of it at the time, just assumed it was busted like everything else around there. But now it felt important. Now it felt like maybe that one tiny lens saw everything I wished I hadn't. I stared at my phone for what felt like forever. I didn't want to call, I didn't want to explain. Part of me was still hoping I'd made it bigger than it was in my head. But my gut wouldn't let it go. So I dialed, told the dispatcher everything. What I saw, what I didn't touch, where I'd been. And I remember saying there might be a camera, like it was some kind of lifeline. Like if that thing caught even a piece of it, maybe I wouldn't feel so crazy for trusting my gut. Maybe it wouldn't all just disappear like a bad dream. The call came in maybe an hour later. Private number. The voice on the other end said they were with Bayline PD and needed me to return to the scene to give a formal statement. I almost didn't go. Every part of me wanted to stay parked under those Quick-Mart lights and pretend none of it had happened, but I went. When I turned back onto Layton Avenue, the whole block was different. Police tape stretched across the entrance. Squad cars everywhere, red and blue flickering off the windows. Officers were moving in and out of the building like ants, efficient, serious, talking into radios, pointing at things. It felt surreal, like I was watching a crime documentary, except I was in it. They had me wait by my car until a plainclothes detective came over. He was calm, asked me to walk him through everything again. I did, step by step, even the parts that made me sound stupid, like why I followed a stranger into a basement in the first place. He nodded through it, didn't judge, and then he told me what they found. It was a body, a woman, his wife. She'd tried to leave him a few times, apparently. This time she didn't make it out. He used something heavy, some kind of tool from his garage. I didn't ask for more. I didn't want details. The detective said I did the right thing. That walking away probably saved me, but those words haven't helped much. Because I keep thinking, what if I hadn't noticed the stain? What if I'd grabbed the other handle like he wanted? What if that door had locked behind me? I play those questions over in my head sometimes. Still do. And the truth is, I don't think I'll ever stop.